I'm here with Yuliya Malysh, the Head of Growth at Miro. Hi, Yuliya. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hi everyone. Thanks for hosting me. It's super cool to be a part of this amazing community.
Awesome. So let's dive into the questions. Welcome to the Product Leaders series. What we're trying to do is sort of elevate the conversation around product management and talk to people who have done awesome things. They've been there, done that, so we can learn from them. I'm very excited to talk to you. So could you please start by telling us a little bit about your personal journey? How did you get started in product and how did you get to where you are now?
Yes, so I will actually start from the day I joined Miro. So I joined this company almost 7 years back, and I actually joined as a product analyst, but there were only 15 people. So we wear a lot of different hats at the same time. And we don't know even the term of product management, but like we were doing this. So what we were doing is discover like the patterns of using like the MVP that we were building and figured out how we can solves user problems or make their user flows better. That is why being an analyst, I also were working on the website, landing page designs, or on the onboarding of the product, and also on business model that we had, because I always look at the data and see where we have like frictions and bottlenecks. And that was also like my part of responsibility to discover how to remove those friction to help us to grow and solve user problem at the same time. So it was very smoothly transition from like data to the product management. And I think like started 3 years back, I started to build a product growth function here at Miro. And right now, it is 6 cross-functional teams that works in different areas of the product, or like for different business metrics, from acquisition to activation, monetization, and retention.
Oh, that's so cool. As product people, we're always talking about this idea of falling in love with the problem. Could you tell us a bit more about the problem you're trying to solve at Miro?
Yeah, so our mission is to empower teams to create the next big things. And the way how companies create right now is changing too. So we see like 2 big trends, like this year especially. First is like continuous customer-centric innovation and like applying these mindsets. And second, like this work from everywhere situation. And Mary Meeker has identified that ensure that creativity is captured and productivity is maintained as the most critical problem and issue for the companies at that time. And this is something that we want to solve for the world. And our vision is to live in the world where people can co-create together regardless of their location and like build good for our world.
They've been your boards have been a lifesaver for our teams since going remote. Yeah. You can't lean over someone's shoulder and work with them. So having that space, it's been a true lifesaver for us.
We get this feedback. It's absolutely like priceless to see that actually your product saves someone like working lives and businesses, because like there is no other way how they can like interact or like create, innovate, and continue running business in this time.
You can actually see the impact. Well, it's impacted us for sure. So if I'm not wrong, you were a growth PM before you were the head of growth in a sense. So you know a lot about growth product management. What would you say are some of the biggest myths and misconceptions around growth product management?
I think it's way harder than people think it is. So sometimes I face this like reality or other mentality of it's just testing the ideas. So it's simple, like you have an idea, let's go and test it. But actually it's a very hard work underneath, because like to make the business, like the real business impact, you need to have a lot of different context and understand both like the customer problem and just deeply understand their why, but also like have this data mindset to like connect those 2 pieces, and also like crafting like the narrative for the good experiments is very important. You can't just like idea is not an experiment. And I think this is a misconception as well. And take the output of the experiment results to combine like the qualitative, quantitative, and experiment results to make the decision. So for me, it's much more work actually needs to be done to be successful in this role. That might be think if you haven't like ever tried to do this.
Yeah, I suppose some people outside of, well, especially outside of tech, but also outside of product, is people think that a growth product manager is someone who bursts into the meeting room and says, hey, what if we were on TikTok? And it's like
something like that. Yeah, absolutely. And like one thing that I constantly do at my job is asking why question. Like, is that like, okay, like that might be a good idea, but why I think it could work for us? And then like people start to think, oh, okay, like that's a good question. So I need to figure it out. Okay, what the input could be like? What is the reach you will like see? Do you have any evidence that it can work for us or not? Like, what is the level of confidence, etc. And then like by providing, like by asking the questions and providing them this like thinking process framework, they understood that actually it's not that easy.
Yeah.
It may look like,
yeah, it's a lot more work and a lot less gung-ho than people seem to think it is. So moving on to a different tack a little bit, we know that to get anywhere, but especially to get far in product, you have to keep evolving as a professional. You have to keep learning new things. Is there anything that you're interested in learning at the moment, or anything that you're like actively learning? And how do you make sure that you have time for your own personal development?
That's a good question. So I think like this year is very different for all of us, and in this uncertain, like stressful and very like shaky times, we started paying more attention to our like mental health, and this is something that we also want to discover how we can provide, like how we can solve this type of problems with our product as well, like while people working in this distributed or remote setup. And as I mentioned, we also want to help them to co-create. The topic of creativity is very interesting for me as well, and also like how people can train and evolve creativity, because I don't think that this is a talent, like just talent that someone were born with. It could be trained, and like everyone could be creative, and actually everyone is creative, but like also how to what are the techniques, like frameworks, like warm up exercise, like to maintain your creativity level at the highest. Yeah, this is something that is interesting for me right now.
Okay, great. Creativity isn't like a one static thing. It's something that's evolving, and it's not something you're born with. You can develop it. Totally get what you're saying there. So as a growth product leader, you must have a lot of strong opinions on how growth is going to work at Miro, but then you also work with an incredible team who you work with every day and you respect. How do you balance having your own opinions and the amount of influence that you have over the roadmap versus letting your team voice their opinions and letting them influence the roadmap? Like, how do you find the balance between those two things?
Yeah, so I think my major outcomes is actually provide the context to the team, and it's like setting up the strategy, like direction, focus, that people know why we are going in this direction, like, and how this direction looks like, how we will measure the success while we are going. And when I'm providing like different feedbacks and ideas, I think it's very important to speak through why I think it's an important idea. And when I'm doing this, it's not actually I want to convince people to prioritize this idea, but I just want to share the context that I have, like from talking to other companies, from talking to our users, from talking to the leadership team, to make sure that they have the same amount of context to make the right decision for the roadmap. And if they have like their own context that I don't have, I also want to hear them talking through it. And then it might be like, that's fine. Like now I see that this is like more important right now than that thing that I'm talking about it right now. So I think like this type of like mindset, I also like just speaking through your intent, like what is your intent? like my intent not to say like what you need to do. My intent to make sure that we have the same context and we prioritize the roadmap like within like the same field.
So again, it's all about collaboration.
Yeah, it's all about collaboration and like asking why.
Yeah. So there are so many great tools like yours where they're built specifically for product managers rather than product managers having to piggyback off of other platforms like, I don't know, Google Sheets, Google Docs, like things that weren't built specifically with them in mind, but where they have to kind of like wrangle them and just make them work. So what would you say for product managers? What's the best way for them to make the most out of your tool where it's been built sort of with them in mind?
We recently launched the Miro Verse. Is actually our user-generated content like library. It's a community templates library, and this is where other companies and other leaders, other product managers from companies share how they use our product. And I find it's way more inspirational than sharing like how I am using the product and like what we have in mind, because they're more like way more creative than we are, and it's also like again give you like a big variety of use cases that you can do and a big variety of frameworks that you can take and not think about the framework and the format, and you should just like concentrate on like the thought processes, not creating like the way like it should be done, but actually like focus on the work. So I encourage everyone to visit the Miro Verse and explore how other companies like Kodak, Samsung Next, AJ and Smart are using our product for, and find out like interesting framework that you can apply for a specific use case.
Yeah, that's so cool. I know personally that if you hand me a load of templates, I will be playing with them for hours. So that's my afternoon gone. That's what I'll be doing.
Yeah, cool.
And just while we're on the topic of tools, I'm quite interested to learn what are some of the other tools that your team has in their stack? What other things do you personally find useful in your day-to-day?
Pretty generic, I think. So we use Miro, we use Zoom, we use Slack for communication and collaboration. And I think like that's the 80% of our time, like where we spend like working time. And then like it's more like Google Docs, Google spreadsheets, like Jira for tracking the work, like task workflows. We use Figma for designs, or like but they are more like use case specific, and like not all team is using it, but like more specific functions, but something like that.
Yeah, I think sometimes we can run after the new shiny tool and just be like, oh, I want to try that. And then you've got 18 different tools on your desktop and you've got a little bit of your work in each of them. And that's not the most efficient way to do things. I've fallen into that trap many times. So
actually, I just wanted, but absolutely true. And you as a product manager always explore other products also, like just to get some inspiration or to increase your context, what other people are doing, where we can like maybe integrate to make a big impact, etc. But I always, even like when you think that it's a good product and you start to share it with the team, you understand actually how hard it's for like to implement and to introduce new tools within the companies. And it's always like reminding us that people who find us might have the same struggle in their companies. And we also started to think, okay, like what help us to actually bring this new tool and roll out it to the whole user, to the whole teammates across the team. That's also fun exercise.
Yeah, very cool. So I'd love to hear some of your thoughts on the future. What do you think is one technology that's about to absolutely blow up?
I think I'm not good at this. I'm not a futurist, but like artificial intelligence, it's not like a new technology, but it's evolving. And I think like the things it enables, technologies like voice as a new interface, which I think are important, or some like no code functionality that also help to people to like create something bigger, or it will help later on to create this type of presence in a distributed world that is like everyone is liking right now and will be in the future anyway. like I can highlight this one, but I'm not an expert in.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's funny how technology is sort of playing a bigger role in our lives now, especially now that everyone is distributed. Everyone's having birthday parties over Zoom, and they're having weddings in Animal Crossing. So I couldn't believe it. So it's going to be interesting to see if technology evolves faster because of how much more we're using it. Yeah, that's going to be interesting to see. So I know you said that you're not a futurist, but I have one more future related question, just one more, I promise. Growth product management has, funnily enough, been growing in the last few years. What do you think is the future of growth product management? Do you think it will continue to grow in the way that it has been?
Good question. I think that the growth product managers, so previously we'll call them like growth hackers, and it was absolutely a different perception of those people who are doing this. Right now, sometimes people think that the job of a growth product manager is like to optimize in something. But I believe that the biggest growth comes from like changing the fundamentals and actually running some of the 0 to 1 project to create new channels of distributions, create new channel like tactics that then other company might use. And that's more innovative job for me. So I see moved more from optimization, because like this optimization tactics could be applied by any product team, like just help other product teams to learn and apply growth processes and mindset to iterate within the areas and leave more like this like challenging and, as I said, like 0 to 1 project to the growth product manager to discover something new that could like give a potential for growth.
Awesome, thank you. So that's all the questions that are from me. Now we're going to open the floor up to questions from our audience, and I've seen a couple come in already. Let's see what we have. Okay, I think we might have touched on this already, but it's an interesting question to think about. How do you see the, and it's in brackets, unique challenges of 2020 affecting the product world / how your team works? So has anything changed for you guys since everything about 2020?
Of course. I think that when all this, like, I don't know how to say, like crisis, like coronavirus came, one of our goal was to urgently transfer all the processes that take place in the office to the remote format. And we did it pretty fast. And on the go, we learned and iterated a lot in terms of like what is not necessary anymore, or what is something we're missing. I think people become more empathetic to each other and try to speak up more and ask questions in terms of how you feel, or speak up when they see that like this process doesn't work anymore, like we need to change because I felt overwhelmed, etc. Like constant iteration and asking for our product team to provide feedback, for the leadership team, for people team help us to iterate and to come up with the more comfortable processes that we have right now. And it's also in remote format. I think it's 10x more important to provide more clarity on the roles and expectations and responsibilities of like individual contributors and the team, so they're not like feeling lost like alone in their home. So it's also implies a lot more sometimes like communication, just like confirmation and speaking through this like over and over again.
Absolutely. So we've got a couple more questions coming in. Let's see. You've already touched on most of the topics people are asking about. Maybe we can go in depth a little bit more. Okay, here's an interesting one. Is culture fit at a company as important as people think it is? Would someone more skilled or experienced but also shy lose out over someone confident in the hiring process?
Culture fit is definitely important, and we have our special round of interviews also to assess it, and we have our culture champions that also later on help to onboard new like teammates into our culture, because like we are growing so fast, and to keep our culture strong. It's super essential to hire for a great addition to our culture, and also to onboard them in things that we have. But it's not about like shy versus like people who are like strong in some communication skills. We think more about like how collaborative this person is. So as we're building collaborative product, playing as a team to rule the world is very important for us. So we are searching for people who can co-create and not like have a more individual approach, or for example that they have this agile and growth mindset, so they can admit their failures and can learn from their failures, like, and iterate, because like we all doing new things, like nobody have done it before, so that it's okay to be like to be wrong, but it's very important to learn from it and like to go and iterate. So we also like search for people that can like they have this type of mindset.
Yeah, I suppose if you've got mindset as like the core thing that everyone has in common, if everyone was exactly the same in every other way, you wouldn't get the diversity of opinions that you need to build something.
Absolutely. So diversity of backgrounds is also very important. So because like every person can bring something, both like to your culture and like to your creativity as a team.
Yeah, and if you're trying to build products for everyone, you need a little bit of everyone on your team. Exactly.
That's true. Yeah, that's true.
So whoever asked that question, if you're shy, don't worry, you will get hired by someone at some point, we promise. Okay, here's a good one, especially in terms of the remote context, I guess. How do you balance time between leading a team and your own individual contributions?
Yeah, that's a question. I don't think like I somehow can like say like 30% goes like to do hands-on, 70 to lead the team. I think I have like this in common inbox of things that I have to do, and I like there is a 4D framework, so I can do something, I can delegate, I can like just deprioritize or delete it, and I usually try to like it's sometimes it's very unconscious in terms of like how I decide like where it's better to take it and like work on this myself versus to delegate it to some of the team members. But it's all like depends on the capacity of the team, like the unknown field of the problem, like the seniority level of team members, etc. So you have all these like fields in mind where you like calculate and prioritize. But like sometimes once a month, I like literally look at like a big backlog, let's call it, and figure it out. Okay, like this is what I have to delegate. This is like where most of my time goes, like where it goes. I need to revisit it and think like, okay, how I can free up my time for more important things where I can contribute versus like keep doing the things that I'm doing just because this is a habit. It's very important to reflect as like for everyone, especially as a manager and a leader, reflect on where your time goes and like then turn like these insights into action items to both like help to and empower the team to grow and also like focus your attention to the most important thing like for the company.
Yeah, I like that idea of reflecting rather than following the same process out of habit. I think that's a key insight for anyone to take away from this. Here's a fun question that we can finish on because I'm aware that we're running out of time. Are there any unexpected platforms you'd like to try to use for Miro, like TikTok?
We actually want to build Miro as a platform that other team can use to distribute their products. So that's cool. So we are like building an ecosystem that will help others to other thought leaders or people who creative, some of our even like technology to distribute their like the value that they're building through our user base as well. I think like if we think about the future and the vision, like I'm thinking more about it rather than of some unexpected platform that we can use. But if someone can pitch me idea how the TikTok could be used for our growth, like I'm like open to listen to it.
You do see brands getting quite creative and you see them and you think, I wouldn't have thought I'd see you on TikTok, but you know, somehow they make it work.
Yeah, if it's very like sometimes it's super natural and organic to the brand that they're doing. So I think it's not just like we can't just simply copy like other brands are doing. You need to understand why they're doing and why it works out, and think about what could be a unique way for you as a company to like to have this something like a very interesting like collaboration between the brands, for example, to have this synergy effect.
There's a lot of space for some really cool and unexpected things to happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, well, that's have we got any more questions? Let's just see. Yeah. Okay, we've got time for just one more because I'm curious about this as well. It says, would love to know how you ran meetings pre-pandemic. So how did your in-person meetings go? Or did you do anything special, I guess, before it all went remote and we all did it in the same way?
I don't think there would be. So we are distributed anyway by nature.
Oh, right.
We like collocated in hubs, but like we have a lot of cross-functional collaboration that is like we're happening in Zoom and Miro anyway. I think we just move more meetings to remote format. But when we gather in person, when we plan in the quarter or a year, we tend to have this type of offsites where we just like get out of the building, of the room, and think more strategically, think about operation that help us also like to align the context, talk through it. And like right now we're business right now. Like we don't have the space where we can gather, and also like some people are not like in the same city and we can't fly to each other to share this content, and we are very limited in terms of time zone overlap right now that we can do it. So I miss this time, and it was very important for us actually to meet together in person, because especially when new people joining and to even like go for informal conversation and like dinners, have this I know like jokes inside the room, because when you hear how people talking, how they are behave in real situation, then you understand actually how to read the messages that they are sending. Like I know for me it's very important. If I understand the personality, I can understand like the intent that people are like putting into their message. And sometimes when you haven't met this person, it's way harder to understand even the written communication. So you lean into this like to get to know each other more personally.
I suppose that's one of the downsides now of having such a strong company culture, is that now we're all remote. I miss everyone.
Yes. Yeah, we miss everyone. That's true.
Yeah, well, on that note, we're going to close the session up. I just want to say again, Yuliya, thank you so much for joining us. I think this has been really insightful, and I think everyone's going to take away a little something interesting from it. So thank you again for joining us.
Yay, thank you for having me. I hope that someone gets something like useful from this conversation. The questions were really interesting.
Okay, awesome. Well, we will see you all in the next session, and thank you all for joining us.
Yeah, thank you. Bye.
Bye.